Megyn Kelly slams DeSantis for rejecting an interview. He is afraid. Now, Megyn Kelly, we know, is not for Trump, and everybody knows that. If there's a person she's not for, so she's not lobbying because she's trying to get closer to Trump. That's got to be out
Ever
there.
since that first debate stage when she had blood coming from everywhere.
Yeah,
right?
Megyn Kelly revealed on Monday episode that Megyn Kelly showed that Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor and likely 2024 presidential candidate, has been turning down her request to interview him on her SiriusXM show, suggesting that he's afraid of her interview style. Kelly refused to soften questions to presidential candidates and explained that reporters are there for the viewers, not the candidates, and journalists need to be adversarial with interviewees. Kelly concluded by saying it disgusts her watching the press running cover for Biden and hardcore MAGA group running cover for Trump, and that reporters should stop falling in love with politicians and grow a pair because their business is not to be loved. It's to tell the truth. Respect will get reporters an audience. Love is for pundits who just want to say nice, sweet nothing. So what do you think about what she says here?
I think she's right. Oh, go to Tom.
Tom, what are your thoughts on this?
I think she's absolutely right. And she makes an important point. And what you were both been talking about in this whole line of leadership here, when you look around the world stage, the greatest compliment our adversaries have given U.S. presidents is when they say he's crazy. When Reagan was about to be elected, you saw the Arab world, and particularly Iraq, saying, that guy's crazy. And that's because they didn't want to articulate their fear in public. They said he's crazy. When you look at the people that surrounded the Emperor of Japan, we now see through memoirs and things that come out, when Truman dropped those bombs, now those were dropped on military and civilian targets, and it's horrible. It's a horrible moment in history that it had to happen that way. But they all told the Emperor, FDR's dead. Truman's crazy. And that is where, you know, it's sort of the doctrine of Kaiser Sose, if you ever remember the Untouchables. Mm-hmm. They said, the will to do one more thing that the other guy won't.
Mm-hmm. And unusual suspects.
Yes, that's right. Unusual suspects. And I think that's there.
Usual suspects. You know where I went with that, right, Pat? Sorry about that.
But I think what Megyn Kelly is asking for is like, hey, I'm not here for your talking points. I'm trying to identify a leader. That's kind of what I see, because I see a certain purity in Megyn Kelly's approach, is that if you get through that gauntlet, you come out with a lot of respect. And she's not there, I think, to play a gotcha
I don't disagree with her, though. You know, I don't disagree with her.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't disagree with her. I think there's a part, and by the way, I don't think it's going to work for him. I don't think it's going to work for him to do the following. Okay, for example, you know the strategy of, because Ron is using Biden's strategy. There's no strategy different than he's not using Trump's strategy. He's using Biden's strategy.
Just keep a low profile.
What's Biden's strategy? I'm telling you, if you watch Piers Morgan's interview, you can tell a guy is interviewing him who would rather have him than Trump. You can tell in the interview that it's a soft interview. Yeah, he brings some stuff up, but it's very obvious for somebody that's an interviewer, you know how an interview is done, where it's like, if you're here, let's just say you're trying to be as neutral and moderate as possible with anybody you're interviewing. Okay, if we know 5% you're for the guy, we're okay with it. That's fine. I can respect that. But if you do an interview and you go 25% this side, you're not doing an interview. You're hanging out with a friend is what you're doing.
Right.
That was a 25% interview of what he did. Piers Morgan did an interview with Andrew Tate. It was sick because he pushed him. And then Andrew had to kind of defend himself. So Piers is one of the best interviewers in the world. But for me, DeSantis is using Biden's strategy because he's avoiding the hot seat. And Trump is going to come out and say, if you just want to go interview with people that you like, that's Biden 2.0, what DeSantis is doing. DeSantis needs to go do some real interviews that's going to be uncomfortable. A part of the thing, to me, you know who I put the blame on that? I'm going to go where you went, but you gave credit, but I'm not giving credit. You know where I'm going with this? Mm-hmm. Exactly. Mm-hmm. I'm going to who's his press secretary. It ain't no Christina Pushaw or the new guy that he has, you know, whoever it is.
Brian something.
His press secretary is Casey.
I would think that she would, you know, train him and get him to understand that, you know, let me do some mock interviews with you. Let me throw.
You don't think they've done it?
Well, I don't know.
For sure they've done it.
Well, I would hope so. I mean, I've seen some, you've seen some bright lights when he has had some of these press conferences and leftist media has attacked him.
He's great, though, but that's when he wins.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I think that's the asset that can help him. That it's just like when I became, selected for battalion command, I had to go through battalion command charm school, and part of battalion command charm school was media relations. Mm-hmm. And you had to sit in there, you got a scenario and an incident had happened, and you had a mock media, and they came at you, man. And I was like, dang, this is they don't want it. They redirect you. And so you have to be able to be on. And that's why I think she could be that asset for him. But if she's not the sergeant major, if she's not the sergeant major, if she's just playing, cheerleader.
But you know what it is, though? What? Here's what it is. So you're a colonel, so I salute you. I'm a 44-year-old specialist. Is the most I made it. So I'm nowhere in your league.
The specialist gave me more headaches than anybody else.
but you know what? The Lieutenant Colonel P. Cox is who changed my life.
Yeah.
Till today, I wish I could find this man. Lieutenant Colonel P. Cox is a man that changed my life. He was one of the men that changed my life. I really respected the way he led me, a 20-year-old kid. He was a good man. Changed my life in a big way. But here's the thing. So let's just say you report to me, hypothetically, and you're 25, I'm 35. You're a fighter, okay? It's very obvious you're a fighter. I'm going to read that very quickly, okay? So, and I know potentially you have what it takes to be a major, lieutenant colonel. You got a big upside, right? And you're not even a second lieutenant right now. Maybe you're an E6, E5. You're about to become a second lieutenant. Your father's going to come and put that on you. It's a special moment that you're going to have. You're the E5, E6. I'm going to put you in positions to fight because you are a fighter. Mm-hmm. I think we just watched Creed the other day. We're in the Rocky series with the kids. So I have to go through all of them. I've watched this thing so many times, but I have to go through because I got two sons, 11 and 9, and they want to go through all of them. Once we watch one Mission Impossible, we're going through 73 of them, right? So however many they got. So, and in Creed, there's a couple parts where it's like, where Rocky takes responsibility for allowing Creed to fight Drago, and he says, as a corner man, it was my fault, and he was kind of afraid of it, right? I think the corner man here is her, and she has to let him go fight more of these fights. And the longer you go, here's the problem. The longer you delay this announcement and you go, it's going to take 3 months of 20 hardcore interviews to make you ready for the stage. Yeah. I don't understand this concept. Like, this is the part about, dude, you don't know like, as smart as you and I may be, and we can come up with 93% of all the questions people are going to ask you. You don't know the 7%. We need the 7%.
Yeah.
And the 7% you're going to get is to go to a Megyn Kelly, is to come over here and sit down with us and have a conversation. It's not to go to people that are loving you, they're going to vote for you. That's not how you win. Trump, the reason why Trump got the credit that he got from everybody, ask me any interview, anytime, any place, let's roll. Mm-hmm. You don't have to like that guy. You just have to say, this he's willing to go anywhere.
Yep.
But at least there's the respect and the fear, because he's saying, I don't fear you. He says, go ahead. What do you want to say? Hey, Trump, do you have any, are you a Second Amendment guy? Yes, I am. Do you want any guns? I do. Do you go out shooting? It's none of your business. Yeah, but how do you feel about the Second Amendment? What's your question? Get it out there. Do you even know what you want to ask? So now the interviewers are scared of the guest.
Yeah.
Versus in a situation like this, you can't ever pose yourself as you're afraid of the interviewer. The interviewer has to walk in and be like, oh, shit, I'm interviewing a heavyweight. Am I going to be ready? Or is this guy going to school me? DeSantis is not giving that energy out. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
I did? Carrie Lake. You ever seen Carrie Lake?
She's a beast.
Try to get cornered in the hallway, and she tops and turns and says, excuse me, your publication said this 2 weeks ago, and you said this, and I don't appreciate the...
Well, what you're talking about is that you never win on defense. You only win by seizing the initiative, carpe diem, and going on offense. And that's basically what the military teaches you. There's no battle that's ever been won on defense. I mean, even if you have a successful defense, you got to counterattack. If you want to drive the enemy off the battlefield, Karl von Clausewitz said that war is about the imposition of your will on your enemy. And so that's how you have to start looking at this. And you're bringing up a great point. How do you impose your will out there? How do you make sure that you're imposing your message? How do you come across as that really figure of strength and might that people can rally behind? And that's what America's going to be looking at.
How did America learn about you? America learned about you the 13, 14, 15 years ago when you gave that revolution message. I don't know if you know which one I'm talking
remember.
about.
Yeah.
That went viral. It's all tens of hundreds of millions of views. Everybody's like, who is this guy? Military know who you were. Army know who you were. But the rest of us didn't know who you were. We're like, damn, I like this guy. He's a freaking fighter. This guy sounds like he could be a governor or president one day. That's what we want to see. The guys that are going to be voting in are going to be talking about you. I think we have a fighter here. His name is Ron DeSantis. I think his corner is holding him back. And I think his corner needs to realize this man knows how to fight.
Have you asked him to come on your show?
I have asked him to come on the show, and I've even asked him to hold a fundraiser at the house. I have no problem holding a fundraiser at their house. Give me the number. We'll go raise it for you. And he's actually done fundraisers in our community. He's got the open invitation. We've had the conversation. Come down. I'll bring 20 influencers that are people that have a lot of views, and they're in the independent side. These would be good guys to get on your side. He's got the full invitation. Christina Pushaw was here. I've spoken to his people. We've sent the invite. We've sent the email, all of it. But I feel there's somebody behind closed doors. I've already hinted who I think it is that is holding him back, not in a negative way, in a way of trying to be too perfect with your strategy. But I think it's going to backfire because DeSantis is a brawler. This guy's not a pansy. He is a fighter. He's a brawler. But let him show his brawling abilities. That's how America fell in love with him in 2.5 years when there was a fight during COVID. We learn about this guy. I think we need to let him loose a little bit.
You know, you bring up a great point that you cannot sit around. When we would go out to training rotations, National Training Center, Joint Readiness Training Center, the people that would always lose, the commanders that would always lose, were the ones that sat back and tried to come up with a 100% plan. And what they taught you at these places that if you quickly come up with a 70% plan, but you execute it to 100% perfection, meaning that you are the one on the battlefield that can quickly adjust, that you're taking in all of the branches and sequels, then you're going to be successful. So I see what you're saying is that Governor DeSantis, don't sit around and try to be perfect. Don't try to be cute. Come up and be yourself. And on top of that, have the plan to be able to go out and be successful. Understand that you're going to have to, be able to adjust, improvise, adapt, and overcome. But that's the essence of a true leader. Because in combat, you can come up with the greatest plan ever, Tom. But you know who has a vote? The enemy. And as we say, no plan survives first contact. But at least you got to have a base structure of what you want to go into it. And look, I sat back and watched your interviews before I came in, and that's because I got to study. I got to understand where I'm coming into, and I just sat out and here are my little notes and whatever because I've got to be able to quickly adjust off of what you're saying.
But you're a fighter, though.
That's what, yeah.
No, you're a fighter, and so is
I can't
DeSantis.
help that. That's just who I am.
But I think DeSantis is a fighter.
Yep.
I think Trump is a fighter. And FYI, for me, this is going to sound weird to a lot of people. I will do a fundraiser for Trump. I will do a fundraiser for DeSantis. I will do a fundraiser for Biden. Confusing, ain't it? And I would bring the same exact 20 people, and I would say, see if you can win these guys over. Because if Biden comes to our house and we raise the money for you, tell us what the number is. They're going to say, dude, this guy doesn't seem presidential. Hey, that's what happens. Well, we got you the money. What's the number? $500,000? Here's $500,000. The 20 people are going to go and say, dude, I thought he was impressive. He's not. I liked him, but this guy can't be the president. It's not the case. Or he's going to say, this guy's pretty impressive. This isn't about me picking favorites right now. We need a fighter today because the war is real. The enemy is massive, and they're unifying during a time like this, which I do believe when I was pushing back on the 4 years, I do believe this is the most important time, at least in my lifetime. I don't think this is a time to be fooling around. I think we need to be doing a better job selling the urgency, and I don't see urgency from DeSantis. That's all I'm saying. If you really are going to do it, what month are we right now? What is it? Is it
going in
April? Okay. April, you got what? April, you got 15 months?
When is your legislative session in? Because that's what everyone's saying is he doesn't want to announce until the legislature.
I think that's in May, I want to say.
Okay. Well,
Pat, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
In regards to, essentially, we started this conversation with Megyn Kelly and going into enemy territory versus playing it safe, DeSantis. I'm trying to rack my brain. I can only think of 2 politicians in the last 5-10 years who will go into enemy territory, but it hasn't necessarily worked out well with them in the last 2 election cycles. The only 2 politicians that come to mind are Trump and Bernie Sanders, right? Biden's not going to enemy territory. Obama would barely even go on Bill Maher, and that's the guy who would agree with him. So we're questioning Ron DeSantis whether he should go into quote unquote enemy territory, and not like he'd be coming on Valuetainment PBD podcast enemy territory. Full support over here for DeSantis. The question is playing it safe. Is that Biden played it safe? He beat Trump.
It's not full support for DeSantis.
No, I'm just saying it, meaning
for you're a DeSantis
I'll
guy.
go with DeSantis 100%.
But to me, you know what I am? I'm not a DeSantis. I'm not a Trump guy. I'm a guy that is showing strength to face 4 real enemies today that is not afraid to back down. And if you're going to play this card now, then that means that's how you're going to lead as a politician when you become a president. You're going to be too overly strategic. Being too overly strategic means you may win, but America doesn't win. Dude, you got to get a black eye. Go get a couple black eyes. I'm sorry. The way you brawl is, this is not a, dude, you're not going into a fight where it's like, okay, throw jabs and boom, okay, great, I won by points. This is not a winning by points situation today. This is a brawl today. This is a Mickey Ward against Gotti fight today. This is a trilogy of these guys that went to freaking Roberto Duran going up against, this is a war. You can't be effing around right now playing too much strategy. I don't think this is the season to do it. The American people are sitting there, everybody, left, center, right, sitting there saying, what the hell is going on with China? What the hell is going on with Russia? What the hell is going on with U.S.? I'm afraid. We can't be like, so here's what I would, no, that's not, I think America's looking for a guy to come out and say, here's what we got to be doing. Showing toughness, showing I'm not afraid, showing, you think, if you're afraid of interviewers, what do you think these other guys are you going to face? Those are not interviewers. Those are flatterers that are going to come and play games. You think Putin is an interviewer? You think Xi's an interviewer? What do you think those guys are going to be doing? An interviewer's 1/1,000,000th of a strength of a freaking enemy you're going to be facing. Xi's not an interviewer. He will dismantle America if he wants to. So I think we need strength. Whoever's going to be able to present that, salute, more power to you.
You're so correct. I mean, and I go back to Reagan. A lot of people weren't born, but go back and look at history. You know, Reagan, all of Europe doesn't want those Pershing missiles there.
Yep.
And he got, what was it, Helmut Kohl?
Mm-hmm. Helmut Kohl, German chancellor.
And he says, listen, I'm putting them in, and we can put them in cooperatively, or I can just put them on my own bases, because we had bases in Germany. We had Spangler Air Force Base in Trier, Germany. And he put them there. And Reagan goes to Iceland, to Reykjavik. Why did Gorbachev go to Reykjavik? Because he was scared to death of the Pershing missiles, and he believed Reagan had the will. And when they left Reykjavik, remember the cocky Gorbachev says, what did you want me to say? And an annoyed Reagan turned to him and simply said, you should have said yes. Mm-hmm. And we all know what happened with history. This is not a time for games. This is not a time to win elections through media perfection. You know, there was a whole, Robert Redford had a pretty cute little movie back in the 70s.
The Candidate?
The Candidate.
Yep.
And what does he say after he wins and he played TV perfect?
What do we do now?
What do we do now? You know, exactly. Is that who you want? You want someone who's going to be perfect and come all the way up to the end? And then say, to you, what do we do now? Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what you do now. You have to, if you take, and by the way, no one seems to understand. I'll go back to it real quick. We're talking about this. On China, you know why it's so significant on the yuan? You know why? Because it's not a floating currency on international currency markets. It gives China the control of the value at any given day. And as soon as you put that in there, you're giving them economic power. And when you go back, they've said for a long time, well, you know, Russia would be more stable economically if they had a currency that was traded and respected on the world market. You know what people used to say? They do. It just has a picture of George Washington on it. Because it was the underground currency.
Powerful, Tom.
The underground currency of Russia was a U.S. dollar. So we're going to put somebody there that won't even allow their currency to float with the monetary markets. And they're going to determine the price of a gallon of gas and a cubic feet of LNG, liquid natural gas? Really? That's what you want? You want a perfect guy who's going to now win the election and say, now what do we do? Sorry, I'm not on that page.
You know, I remember I was stationed over in Italy with the airborne unit at the time.
Vicenza? Was it
Vicenza? Yeah, I was in Vicenza. Remember the bombing of the disco in Germany that they tied back to a Libyan terrorist? And what did Reagan do? I mean, it was not any debate. What? Bam! They bombed Libya, and we were like, yeah. That's cool.
Is that Operation Rustic Canyon?
Yeah.
Alan, it took us 5 days to shoot a balloon down.
That's what I'm saying. But that's what you're right. And so when you talk about where we are,
finished its job and was floating over the Atlantic.
And that's what people are looking for. And so, I just jot down here 2 quotes from Alexander the Great. Number 1, he says, "Fortune favors the bold." So if there's a message that I hear that you want to get to Ron DeSantis, fortune favors the bold. And the second thing that Alexander said, that I would not fear an army of lions if they were led by sheep, but I would fear an army of sheep if they were led by...
quote.
It's powerful.
Yep.
It's so powerful. And America is an army. I mean, it is an army of lions. I mean, we want to get out there and smoke.
And why
somebody.
hesitate? Let her rip. Stop solving for perfection.
Yep.
Go get a couple black eyes. Let's go. Let's brawl. This is a real fight.
Yep.
This is not a political, diplomatic strategy, bullshit fight. I'm on a flight from LA, from Burbank Airport to Vegas, and I'm going to Vegas because I got a business meeting. All of a sudden, I look to my right, a guy named Bill O'Reilly is sitting there. I'm like, shit, what are you doing here? So well, I'm taking a Burbank flight. Why are you going there? I'm doing the Dennis Miller thing. I don't know if you guys remember him and Dennis Miller were doing that show.
They had their tour.
So since I got time with you, so tell me, what happened here with Romney and Obama? He says, look, we called Romney to come on the show because we felt, he needed to come and present himself. And then we also called Obama because we thought Obama was going to lose. And he says, when I called Obama's camp about getting on the show, Obama's camp said the following. He says, Bill, you're wrong. It's done. It's done. Obama's winning. He says, why? He says, because Romney's camp made a massive mistake. What was the mistake? Romney's camp convinced Romney that he had to go win the single woman salad eating vote. And he screwed up. Instead of pushing against Benghazi, after the second debate, he was crushing him.
Yes.
The moment he flipped, he lost. Who the hell is in the ear of this man that could be a president? Go brawl. You're a fighter, Ron. You're not a guy that sits on the sidelines. Let's roll. By the way, this message here will probably eliminate the chance of sitting here, because they're definitely not going to have him come over here to this podcast. It's going to be like, dude, go to Megyn Kelly. Nova, go to PBD podcast show. I'm okay with that. If you're going to go out there, go roll. Mm-hmm. This guy's a fighter. He's a tough guy. You see him, the way he handles the media. Every time, like when somebody says, no, we're not going to do no. Like, that's exactly what we need today. I'm not trying to be winning best friends here. I'm not trying to go and say, hey, can we be best friends? I don't need to be best friends with you. You don't need to be best friends with me. But damn it, let's go see your fight, because you got it.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.